okay, the moderator here, but I am just going to introduce myself and a little bit the concept of the workshop webinar, and then I will leave the floor to the other speakers. So this webinar is being co-organized by StandICT and AIOTI to present this joint work on the landscape reports for IoT and Edge computing. And so we will share the work that has been done. And I assume I will have only the introduction for the StandICT part, and then there will be Antonio to take over, and moderate the whole discussion. All right. So welcome from my side in any case. I don't know, Antonio, if you want to say a few words on the working group in general.
You see me? Do you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. So hello everyone. We have this 1 hour webinar to discuss two landscape documents. Okay. And I just want to highlight that AIOTI is an association that was initially focusing on IoT, but has been extended to include AI, to include the edge and the continuum, so that actually we are integrating many technologies. Okay. And this is quite important. We need to understand what's going on when we do this integration. So standardization is very important. AIOTI is involved in many, let's say, standardization committees. We do not produce standards, but we study them. We provide recommendation. Some of our let's say, members will be involved and things like that. Okay, so that's how I think we start, and we from time to time publish documents which are actually the collection of experience and research that are having funded by the Commission or funded directly by the people. So we are the bridge between let's say research, innovation, and standardization. Okay. So I guess that would be it, Maria. Okay. This is yeah. Okay. So yes, you can see that I'm the chair of this working group. We are quite a number of organizations. We produce quite a few deliverables. I counted a few minutes ago 29 deliverables, probably more because some versions were actually replaced by others in various domains such as IoT, continuum, high-level architecture. We are super strong on semantic interoperability and computing continuum. Okay, we collaborate with the SDOs, very much so with ISO, also ITUT, ETSI. Then we have the European project StandICT, high level from European standardization, and multi-stakeholder platform. Okay, of course we are involved in many events, and there will be an event in September in Madrid called IoTi Days, and we will talk about standardization. I will chair the session there. Okay, yeah, that's it, Maria. So yeah, okay, maybe we should just okay. So then yeah, so just want to mention here are the list of documents we've been providing. You see, published, ongoing, and we have in the pipe lots of things ongoing, in particular or concerning this integration and the advent of AI. Okay. Thank you, Maria.
Thank you very much, Antonio. Then now on my side, I just have a few slides presenting the StandICT project that has co-organized this webinar, because providing updated documentation on what is the landscape of standardization in various ICT domains is one of the activities that we take care of. In this slide, you can see some sort of wrap up of everything that StandICT has done over the past 8 years, because actually this is an EU funded project that has started in 2018, and we've been able to continue it for 3 editions. The main activity of StandICT, for those who already know it, this will not be news, but for those who don't know it, the main activity is the funding of standardization experts to contribute to the technical committees and working groups of especially international SGOs. And so we have a cascade funding mechanisms through which, by a series of open calls, we distribute this funding up to 10,000 euro per fellowship to all the applicants. And this is the key element that we have brought forward all over the years in all the editions of StandICT. And then over the years, we've added, new resources to the project. In the edition that started in 2023, so the previous edition, we introduced the idea of the technical working groups landscape reports, to which the report that we are discussing today also belongs. And we launched a beta version of the so-called Training Academy, where we collect a lot of documentations and materials on ICT standards that are publicly accessible. Then under this current edition, so the StandICT 2026, that is supposed to end in December this year, we've enhanced mostly the part of the academy. We've launched a mentorship program to help new people, get some experience around standardization. We have continued the work on the technical working groups reports, also adding gaps analysis that was not there before. And we've also opened a new focus on, more sensitive or societal issues, such as we have done a stream of research on the role of human rights in standardization, and we always put a lot of emphasis on trying to engage more women into the standardization domains, as well as other categories that are underrepresented, like the SMEs. If we go to the next slide, you will see here one of the, let's say, the greatest achievement of StandICT lies in the achievement of the fellows that we fund. So we have a dedicated web page on our website, StandICT.eu, where we collect the profile and a summary of the main activities of the people that receive the grants. We have hundreds of fellowships already funded under this edition, and you will see also some success stories on the website where the work of the fellows is better explained. In some cases, some of the fellows are also involved actually in the production of reports like the ones that we are presenting today. In the next slide, I think it's going to be one of the last ones. You see also an overview of the other asset that I was mentioning. So the academy, we've had various trainings on topics mostly focusing on the geopolitics of ICT standardization in various important countries like Korea, India, China, and US. Some simple modules that are actually divided by level, so beginner, intermediate, and advanced, to explain some topics in standardization, and the pilot mentorship program that I was mentioning, where we try and help the new people that want to apply to the open calls or that want to learn in general about standardization. We try to pair them with people that are more experienced so that they can be guided in moving their first steps in the standardization journey. And the last point, the last slide, is actually much more connected to the topic we are going to discuss in this webinar, because this is the overview of the technical working groups that have been produced so far. You see on the left side the covers, basically, of the different publications that have collected over 8,000 views and 7,000 downloads over the years. And also all the standards that are mapped in these publications are also transferred in a online repository, let's call it this way, where we collect all the metadata, of course, not the full standard, because they can be accessed only in the original SDO website, but we collected the metadata and the link to the original source in our repository. And so I hope that if you don't know it already, if you visit our website, you will discover all these resources. The project will have a new edition starting in October, where we plan to continue this work on the landscape reports, but also have a new type of open calls and new activities that we will present maybe in the future webinars. Thank you very much for your attention. And now I think I don't have any slides anymore, so we can move on, yes, to the presentation of the report.
Thank you, Maria. So we can give the floor to Ines, who is in charge of presenting the first report, which is actually the IoT, the landscape for IoT standards. So Ines, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I'm pleased to be here to present this report. Please, next slide. The report is about the compression of IoT standards. This is the version 2 of the report. It was published in June 6 of this year. It's open access, like Maria was mentioning. And then you can, here you can see the link. And the goal of the report is to provide an overview of the IoT standardization in the way that these standards support interoperability, cross-sector analysis, and strategic coordination in the adoption of IoT technologies. In the right side, you can see how the landscape looks like. Next slide, please. The report comprises 36 SDOs, standard developed organizations, through 946 standards. And we can see that the SDOs with more than 100 standards are from the picture in the right side: E2, ISO, IEC, ETSI, IETF. And then in the report, you can see every detail of which standards are covered. Next slide, please. Okay, here we can see how we have structured the report. In the left side, you can see the extract of how the landscape report looks like. So we have divided the standards basically in two parts. First, the domain category that refers to the functional or thematic area that was addressed by the standard, such as connectivity, data management, and these categories try to group standards based on the technical purpose or societal relevance about the standards. And then in orange, you can see the sectors that basically represent the primary application context or industrial domain in which the standards are used. This includes, for example, vertical sector such as health, energy, and then horizontal and verticals, which are the standards that can broadly applicable across both horizontal and vertical domains. Also, the standards in the report have been labeled as updated or new. Well, updated means that the specification have received an update, such as a new version from the previous version 1, and then new that the standard is included in this report and was not present in version 1. Next slide, please. Thank you. Then we can see here which are the scope, the standards by domain category, which we just mentioned that refers to the functional or thematic area. And then we can see that from the 946 standards, the domain categories with more than 100 are data and architecture, infrastructure, connectivity, privacy and security. Next slide, please. Then by sectors, when we refer to the application context or industrial domain, which the standards are used. So we can see that from the top 5, we have horizontal and verticals. Then health, manufacturing, smart city, and health and mobility. Then in the right side, we can see the combination, top sectors domain combination by standard count. So from the top 5, we have, for example, for health, the domain categories with more standards are infrastructure, terms and definitions, and data and architecture. From the sector horizontal and verticals, we have the domain categories data and architecture, infrastructure connectivity. From the manufacturing, we have industry and business, data and architecture, and privacy and security. From the sector of mobility, we have data and architecture, infrastructure, and connectivity. And from the smart city, we have data and architecture, a smart city that is dedicated for a smart city, properly say, and then use cases. Next slide, please. Then if we have the SDOs, well, from the 946 standards, we can mention, for example, the IETF, that is the stand for Internet Engineering Task Force. The IETF basically developed the Internet protocol, such as HTTP, IP, and others. The mission of the IETF is to make the Internet work better. And the IETF, as we understand, I mean, the Internet is built in layers. So each layer addresses a specific set of problems. Then the IETF as well has different areas as the Internet is built in different layers. For example, if we take the TCP/IP stack of the right side, we can see that the IETF work in the network layer, transport layer, application layer, of course, security and management. And from the TCP/IP stack, the lower layers like physical and MAC layers belongs to other SDOs, such as the IEEE. The principles of the IETF is an open process. It's open to everyone. All the documentation is open. All the process is open. The work mainly is through mailing list. Everyone can participate. The people that participate at the IETF has high technical competence. All the positions in the IETF are volunteers, so it's all volunteer core work. The IETF takes responsibility for the protocols that develop, and the standards are developed based on draft consensus and running code, means that they have a code algorithm that solves the problem of this specific internet issue. It most probably will become standard. Next slide, please. So from the distribution of the IETF standards in IoT area, we can see that from the picture of the left, we can see that 26% of the distribution of the standard in IoT belongs to the routing area. That, of course, routing area develop of the routing protocols and architectures. Yes? Yes? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you well.
Yes, we can hear you.
You can continue.
Okay. Okay, so I was saying that the routing area belongs to, from the distribution, 26% of the IoT protocols that the report covers. Then for the 23% belongs to the internet area. The internet area of the IETF focus on core IP protocols related to the, for example, internet addressing such as DNS, IPv6, and mobility. Then is continuing 20% of the protocols of the report from the IETF to the security area, or what is related with the security, privacy, such as authentication, encryption, and integrity. Then we have an 11% of the protocols for the WIT area that comprise the web and internet transport, or what is the transport protocols like TCP, UDP, congestion control. Then we have 9% related with the operational management area that is related with what is the configuration, monitoring, diagnosis, management of the network services. Then we have 6% related assigned to the applications and real-time area, that this is in charge of the protocols for real-time communication and data representation, such as like a JSON. And then we have 1.9% assigned to the RTF, that the RTF stands for Internet Research Task Force. That is the research part of the ITF. The RTF handle all the long-term problems of the internet. For example, how to eliminate the spam of the email, or what is related with IoT is in charge of the RTF. And one of the working group is called Team to Scene Research Group. And then when the research is already have some kind of solution, it passed to the ITF for standardization. Next slide, please. Thank you. So we have, as another example, another SDO 1M2M. So we can see how the protocol from 1M2M are covered in the report. 1M2M was established in 2012. The mission is to develop global technical specification for a common M2M and IoT service layer. The standards developed by OM2M ensure efficient data interoperability across different hardware and software platforms, and they engage with different as well as stakeholders from different domains, such as smart city, transportation, industrial automations. So we can see that, for example, majority of the standards are comprised from infrastructure, privacy and security, data and architecture, and connectivity. Next slide, please. And then another example of SDO, we can have OMA, Open Mobile Alliance, that it was formed in 2002. The mission is to deliver open global specifications for creating interoperability service. And one of the main protocols for IoT developed by OMA is Lightweight Machine-to-Machine, LWM2M. It's developed for very constrained devices, this Lightweight Machine-to-Machine protocol, and is mainly for managed IoT devices. Lightweight Machine-to-Machine use CoAP, that is a constrained application protocol developed by the ITF, over UDP, another protocol developed by the ITF, and is widely used in different use case for IoT. And from the picture on the right, we can see that the distribution of the standards in OMA in the report correspond to infrastructure, followed by data and architecture, and lately connectivity. And I think this was the last slide. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ines. So we give the floor to Axel, who is going to presenting, I would say, part 2, which is landscape of edge computing standards. Axel, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Antonio. I hope you can hear me. Just a little test.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you. So welcome also from my side. I'm from Berlin, Germany. So greetings from Berlin. I had the pleasure to work with the colleagues, Ines and Georgios, and all the people in the group together for the report Landscape of Edge Computing Standards, which is a little bit older than the document. Yes, here we see that the publication date is February 4. You can download the document, and the scope here is the landscape of edge computing activities and edge computing document specifications published or under publication by SDOs, alliances, or open source of open software source initiatives. Yes, here you see the main page here, and it is a publication by StandICT and IoTI together. Next slide, please. It is similar to the document presented by Ines. So we have all the sources of our specification documents and activities here we have these categories, and you can, of course, identify the major players in all these three groups. You may know, maybe not everybody, or every organization which is listed here, but the most of them. So you see the international standardizations, ISO, IEC, ETSI, IoT, IEEE, 3GPP, 5GPP, all these famous organizations are present or are active in the context of edge computing. And we have, besides the SDOs, the alliances, which also address edge computing documents and specifications, of course, AIOTI and the European edge computing coordination groups. So we have a couple of alliances here. You already heard OMA, the Open Mobile Alliance. It's not only active in IoT, but also in edge computing. Then, of course, on the right side, we have open software sources coming from different associations. You may also know some of them, and I don't want to present all of them at the end. We will have a quick look also to ISO and ETSI, but at the beginning we would like to have a quick look to the document itself. Next slide, please. Yes, so the structure of the document is similar to the IoT standard landscape document, of course, because we are the same group and we did this job for IoT landscape and to edge computing landscape. That means we have these structure related to domain categories, and we have, of course, these application or relationship to sectors. So again, domain categories refer to the functional or thematic area, which is addressed by a specific standard or document. In comparison to the IoT landscape, we see some differences. For example, we miss in the edge computing documents categories, domain categories like social community and well-being. We also miss the environment. We also miss education, training and learning, and also food and agriculture. But I think it's clear that this is due to the nature of edge computing, which is not too close to the things, to the internet, to the things in the internet. And next click, please, just to have. Yes, we have also this labeling, like Ines mentioned already, that we have identified, because we have a second version of the document, we have also identified entries which are new in the second version with the keyword new, and entries which have been updated in comparison to the version 1 have been identified with the updated label. Everything in comparison to the version 1. Next slide, please. Yes, here we have, let's say, the top 5 domain categories. It is quite similar. I have not made these nice pictures like Ines provided. I just set here the raw data, but you can see that we have the top 3 are identical. Just the ordering of the top 3, that means connectivity, data and architecture, industry and business. These are the top 3 also in IoT, just the ordering. So connectivity in edge computing is a little bit bigger or larger presented or represented in the standard landscape. Then we have, of course, infrastructure and privacy and security domains very present in our landscape, and other domain categories are less represented, like smart cities or safety and emergencies. But this may change in future. Next slide, please. If we look to the sectors, it means the application context and the and the industrial domain in edge computing standards. We see also that we have less sectors compared to IoT. For example, we miss health, we miss water. And looking to the top two sectors over all the domain categories, top number one is horizontals and verticals. And within this sector, the connectivity is a winner. So the most standards in horizontal and verticals came from the connectivity domain. Second winner in this sector is data and architecture. And the second sector, which is highly present, is manufacturing. And here we have the top source domain, industry and business, and data and architecture is also well present. And the others are there, but not in these, with this big amount of activities and documents and specifications. Okay, we can go to the next slide. Yes, I mentioned that we would have a closer look to these organizations which provide standards, documents, activities to IoT and edge computing. To instill it for IETF, 1M2M, and OMA. I will give you a short, let's say, insight or a short presentation for ETSI and ISO. You know these, of course, but maybe you are not aware of all the different technical committees and industrial specifications which are behind ETSI, or which are inside of ETSI, and which do things, which do specifications for IoT and edge computing. So the two main groups or committees, so we have here ETSI technical committees, these TCs, and industrial specifications groups, these ISGs. They are different, so it's not important very much for us now what is the difference between these, but it is important that these two groups, the ISG MEC, and the TC Smart M2M are the very famous and well-known groups within ETSI dealing with edge computing and IoT. MEC means multi-access edge computing, Smart M2M means smart machine-to-machine communications. But in addition to these groups, we have smaller groups which also provide standards, specifications to edge computing and IoT, which I would also put your attention to this. One click, please. Yes, here, and I would like also to put your attention to the committees Cyber, TC Cyber, which is cyber security, and TC MTS, which means methods for testing and specification. These are groups also dealing with IoT and edge computing, but from a different perspective. They also deal with technical details in IoT, with technical details for edge computing, but from a different motivation. So TC Cyber deals with security standards, but of course security is relevant in IoT and edge computing. And MTS is dealing with testing and specification. You may not know it, but it is of course very important to have quality assurance. That means testing and specifications in all domains. That means also testing specification is very important also for IoT and edge computing. And since I think that that's very important also to be aware of this, I would like on the next slide, please, the activities of this technical committee. So MTS is responsible for the identification and definition of, in general, of advanced specification and testing methods. We have in MTS three groups: the TST, which is the testing group, TDL, which is the test description language group, and AI, which is for artificial intelligence. But let's have a look to one of these groups within TC-MTS. It is the working group testing. And here we have a terms of reference, which is described as WG testing, develops studies, guidelines, test catalogs, and test specifications for specific ICT technologies. But it's important that we do not want to duplicate the work. Here, we only, in this working group, we only produce standards documents which are not covered by existing ETSI committees or groups. That means we do not duplicate the work of TC Cyber, we do not duplicate the work in MTS of TC Smart M2M or ISG MEC. Some examples of documents which has been published in these working group testing are the testing documents for co-op, MQTT, very important IoT protocols. Here we have documents produced for functional testing, performance testing, and also security testing, but concentrating on testing. But it is important for IoT and edge computing because it is dealing with co-op and MQTT protocols. We have also published in these TC-MTS working group testing documents dealing with security modules, security validation. Currently, the group is active and the documents are under development for security validation methodologies and also one work item related to the device security passport, which is a specification issue. And MTS, I mentioned before, is for advanced specification and testing methods. Yes, this is one example of a group. So behind ISG, MEC, and TC Smart M2M within ETSI. Let's have a look to ISO IEC on the next slide, please. Yes, you know ISO IEC, it is organized in technical committees, the TCs, and the joint technical committees. The, let's say, most important or most well-known subcommittee, the SC, is SC41 in GTC1, which is dealing with Internet of Things and digital twins, not only Internet of Things, but also edge computing. It's also in the scope. This is the, from my perspective, the most important subcommittee which I would like to mention here. But like in ETSI, we have behind this major or most relevant group additional subcommittees, which are also important, which also deliver very good specifications and documents for IoT and edge computing. This is subcommittee 27. It is related to information security, cybersecurity and privacy protection, but also SC35, cloud computing and distributed platforms. Here you can find also a lot of specifications, documentation related to edge computing and IoT. And I would like to mention IEC TC65, which is not a joint technical committee, but a technical committee in IEC, which is has the title Industrial Process Measurement, Control and Automation. Very important. In the next slide, I will show you why this is important, this TC65, because here we have a joint working group in GTC1, SC41 with these IEC TC65. So in this slide here is related to subcommittee 41, which is Internet of Things and Digital Twins. And here we have the major working groups 3 and 4, IoT foundational standards and IoT interoperability. And as mentioned before, the joint working group 17, which is a joint working group with IEC TC65. You may know these, you may not know these working groups, but I'm sure that you know the elected documents, which I put here on the slide, which is the IoT reference architecture or the IoT trustworthiness principles. These are published documents, which are very important in the IoT context, very famous, known, and widely used. These two documents comes from WG3, from the IoT foundational standards within SC41. And to give you one more example, this is the committee draft, so that means it is under development. Committee draft CD 30198, which has the title Edge Computing Gateway Interoperability Framework. You see here the work is ongoing in this subcommittee 41 related to edge computing and IoT. So you see here, we had working groups, active working groups at ETSI. We have active working groups in IOC, IEC, GTC1. And I think it's very important to know where these documents comes from. You are always invited to work in the groups, and these groups are producing the standards which we have reflected in the landscape document. And now we go to the last slide of my part. And we did these landscape documents for IoT and edge computing. And this slide now is not related only to edge computing, but also to IoT. So it is a common slide from Ines and myself. We will, for the next steps, we will start gap analysis and standardization needs. That means we are developing a gap analysis and identify parts of IoT and edge computing which are not covered currently by the documents present in the landscape document. And the gap analysis and standardization needs will be presented to the public in a report which is scheduled for the end of the year. And at the very end here, I would like really to mention our great editor of both documents, Georgios Kargiannis, which is a person very motivated, active, and he is leading all our working meetings, all our work between the meetings. We had meetings sometimes each week or every 2 weeks, and it's a lot of work. And Georgios is here very active, and I would like to say for the whole group, it is we are very thankful to him that these documents had been produced. Of course, we thank Maria and Rui for the serious edition of this document, and of course contributors. So we have nearly 30 contributors from nearly 30 organizations all over Europe. So the contributors came from East Europe, from North Europe, from South Europe, from West Europe. So it's very a large group of individuals which did a lot of work by analyzing the long lists of standards and documents produced by all these different organizations. And at the last line, I would like to give the thanks also to the supporting teams, which are important, from IoTi and StandICT, for helping us in producing all these nice reports. That's everything from my side. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Axel. And thank you, Ines. 2 very thorough presentations. Okay. So I'm going to open the floor to whatever questions you have. I don't think I see a question on the chat. Please raise your hand. I think you can raise your hand in case you want to ask a questions. Okay. So pending this, I'm going to Ines and Axel provide some questions. Okay. So first of all, you know that this is a second edition of both documents. So it means that probably we will have in the future 3rd edition or 4th edition. So can you comment on that and how much work we need to do? Can we improve the documents? I think there are tremendous efforts from both Ines and you to present, and this is what we want actually, to present the standards in such a way that we understand where to pick up the standards we need. Okay, so Ines or Axel, can you, what's your reflection about this, the version management of this document?
Thank you. I think I can answer, Axel. Well, actually, the internet is evolving every day, and as is evolving with the new technologies that produce the new case appear, and new needs are covered, so new standards are needed. So this is kind of it will grow up as long as the technology grow up and the use cases grow up. The internet at the beginning was just connected to computers at your university, but now it's around the world. And then as well, we are talking, for example, the ITF about how to connect IP planetarium to take the IP to the stars, to the moon. So it's as long as it's evolving, we will need to work in these reports, because the work is evolving as well. For example, we develop a new standard, but then this new case find this new issue, so we need to develop another standard to fix that issue or to cover this new need. So as we, for example, in the version 2, we have this label called updated, because these draft standards are receiving a new version, so have been updated with the new corrections, and that is normal, it's part of the process. When you find a new need or you find a new issue, you develop a solution. So it's like it will evolve as long as the internet and IoT evolve, basically.
Yeah, I agree. So do you have comments on that, Axel?
Yes, so I can also support the perspective from Ines that it is a lot of work, and of course we have this labeling of new and update, which is nice, and we got experiences from the version 1 how to scan this landscape document. My idea is that maybe in the third version we may also take benefit of artificial intelligence to
Yeah, exactly. So
to learn something and to make our work easier. So
that was my
something
actually my
something
second
which we
question.
could.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
That
I think
actually in the future we might have tools to do it. I know that even StandICT has some projects in which we have what you call a web crawler that is actually checking and trying to come up with things. But maybe in the future also the SDOs, for instance, ETSI, IETF, or they can also publish themselves information. We could agree on that. So I hope that we can go into that direction, because there's interest in sharing those things and providing a story like the stories you both provided. Okay, I mean NS percentage of what is important, what is not important. So this, and you went more into the internals of STO and how they ensure consistency. For instance, the ETSI, how they do it, and in ISO IEC, how they do it. Okay, with different visions. So this is something that is very important. I hope that between with StandICT work, which by the way is not only European, it's really worldwide. I guess out of the people who are downloading, not only us in Europe are doing it. Okay, so I would say this. Okay, now I have a second question. Is you see the wealth of standards just have too many. Okay, how can we handle that? And I think the landscape is helping. Having stories like what you have provided is helping. Okay, so do we leave it like this? I believe it's going to be the case, but how can we survive in the future when we have to pick up the right standards? So maybe we choose LLM. Do you have an opinion on that, Ines or Axel?
I think it will depend the use case where you apply. But basically, could you please repeat the question that?
Yeah, the question is how do we select? We have thousands of
The right
standards.
protocol.
How do we make sure we select the right one? Okay, how do we? And I guess the documents are there to help actually, and they give us some leads. So basically, how can we find the right lead and say we want to go into that direction? We're going to do this and this and this. Okay.
I think because every SDO has their own mission and their goals. So, and for example, the ITF have some conversations with other SDOs and trying to make the work like interoperable between different SDOs. And also, for example, the ITF focus on specific layers. So it's the network transport application security and management of the internet protocol. And then, for example, as well interact, how can it interact, for example, with a live machine to machine from OMA. So I think for every HDO has their specific mission or goals. And then the other standards take care what is already built. The idea is not reinvent the wheel. So we use what is available and we try to make it work. So how you, if you have a problem to solve, you will depend, okay, which is my use case, which kind of IoT device I have, if this IoT device has with this kind of firmware, I should have this kind of protocol that is compatible. And if I want to connect to this one, I want to make sure that run this kind of protocol. So I think you are going to build your use case based on layers, basically how I will connect the physical layer, how I will connect the network layer, how I will connect the transport layer, how I will connect the application layer, how I will do the management, and how I will cover the security. So yeah, I think it's you have to define, like, the internet solves the problems in different layers, and in every layer you will have to apply some solution and make sure that this solution interoperates.
Yeah.
And that is the goal of the standardization, right?
Yeah.
We develop these kind of standards that everyone can use, and we make sure that they can interoperate. And as well, since of course there are a lot of HDOs, they talk to each other, they agree, so they don't overlap.
Yeah, well, actually, that's the wish that they don't overlap, so we have to be careful. So I'm going to rephrase the question to Axel, because Axel presented the edge, and the edge to me is the interface between the cloud and the IoT. And no wonder that actually we started to think about it as a networking technology. And so we had MEC, Smart End-to-End, and then ETSI is more or less the champion on networking technology or networking communication. And then they started on this, and then they took a system view, because you have these all the 4 TCs you mentioned: MTS, testing, cyber, the MEC, and the Smart End-to-End. Okay, so don't you think that we can push exactly what the Ines mentioned and say that, for instance, ETSI is the specialist of edge computing or edge technology, and then we try to seek interoperability between the SC41 standards on one side, IoT, and the SC38 standards on cloud computing. Okay. So it's something we could push. Okay, Axel.
It's to push them. So I think it's very important to know, let's say, the sources of these standards, these groups, as you mentioned. So we know that we have the experts in ISO, we have the experts in ETSI. Of course, they interwork, they have connections, they have liaisons, and we have this communication between the different SDOs, and it's not easy to coordinate everything, but of course we exchange documents. The work in ETSI will be exchanged with the relevant groups in ISO, IEC, GTC1, and we have these let's say, interconnection between these groups, which helps to make good resulting work. And I think it's important to be aware of this and to monitor all the groups. And since we are a large group, the Technical Working Group in StandICT, we had the ability to monitor all the different SDOs, alliances. So, but to support the future, I think we should also monitor the most relevant groups and the connections between them. And let's give me the chance to say one last thing for our work. So ETSI provides these filter of the standards. There's a web page where you can filter standards, existing standards, and you can also filter using keywords. And this was one of my first tools to scan the ETSI document. So I use the filter page of ETSI, and I give in edge computing or IoT, and this helps a lot also to be aware of the relevant standards. So two tools are very important for us, for our group, being aware of the relevant groups and using these filters of the organizations, which helps us to identify the relevant documents.
So maybe StandICT could have the future super filter, which is accessing the filtering capability of ETSI and those of ISO, IEC, IoT. They all have different interfaces, and manually, I think we can survive. But I think future tools and agreement between those guys would be important, because maybe in the future I could buy a standard which is actually composed of IETF part, IEEE part, ISO part, ETSI part, and have them together, knowing that one of the issue is also the business models, because ISO, IEC, you have to buy the standard. ETSI, you don't buy the standard, but because actually it's covered by the fees of the organization that are members of ETSI, and it's nearly the same for ITOT. ITOT, the standards are available. Okay, so we need to, in the future, we probably should respect that. It's not going to change drastically. Maybe a few things will change, but not that much. But at the end of the day, as an organization, I want to have a single view and a clear offer that I can merge the standard from ETSI versus standard from ISO and IC. Okay. So do you have comments on that? Do you think my vision is something we can also we can let's say encourage and foster for the future, and ask let's say StandICT, the Commission, to help? Axel?
I'm not aware of this political influence, but
okay.
I think a good idea to have these come and work together and to be aware of this initiative, harmonized standardization, and which is also a keyword which we know, and it's hard to find parallel work. But I think we saw in the past that the organizations work together, IEEE with ISO and IEC. So I'm optimistic for the future.
Yeah, I think so. And also, maybe some of you are not aware, but we have this smart standard initiative that everyone is working on at the foundation level. And the smart standard is actually, you decompose your standard into more smaller logical pieces, and then you can combine them. Okay, so you can solve it within a SDO, like within ISO, but you could also in the future have agreement, for instance, between Sensenelec, JTC, whatever, and an ISO standard on which you rely. So you could have both together. So those things are, I think, technically feasible. Organizationally, with the goodwill and a preservation of the business model of everyone, it could also be feasible. Okay, and this would simplify the work of StandICT, because well, I have to tell you the dirty secrets for everyone. We use Excel files to work on those things. Okay, so maybe in the future we have a better tools to do it, and so we use mind maps and things like that. We use tools, but we are very much manual right now, and so it could be that. And sorry for that if we have typos and mistakes, but we do a good job. And LLMs and the AI will help us maybe go a little bit better. So in the future, expect that to be improved, because we are creating fantastic tools and let's say asset information for everyone. Okay. So yes, it's exactly time to end. 15:30. I want to thank you. Maria, maybe you have the last word on this, since you're organizing. Thank you so much for the organization. Okay, Maria?
Thank you. Thank you very much, Antonio, from my side and the whole StandICT consortium. And thank you also to Ines and all the Axel and all the other experts that have contributed to the reports. As you were mentioning, yeah, we will have more of these publications coming out in next months, not only on the IoT and edge computing topics, for which you are already working on the updated gap analysis, but also on other ICT topics, let's say. So everything will be published on the websites.
Okay, so stay tuned. That's the conclusion. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Have a good afternoon. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.